Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be discussing the TV miniseries Mrs. America. Mrs. America is a period political drama set in the 1970s following the women's movement trying to get the Equal Rights Amendment ratified. They face opposition from the Stop ERA movement led by conservative Phyllis Schlafly. Now, when I first saw the trailer to the show, I'm not one for political dramas. I think they're boring in my opinion. But it interests me because I think in this time of like the Me Too movement happening right now, I think learning about like where the women's movement started, like post 1960s into the 70s when the Equal Rights Amendment was passed, I thought it was really interesting. And I mean, the cast was stacked. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm just like, all these, well, not all film actresses were in this show. It was actually a good mix. A very good mix of TV actresses and film actresses, but these days they're pretty much one and the same. But the cast starts with Phyllis Schlafly. I'm gonna mess it up. Phyllis Schlafly, played by the honestly chameleon Cate Blanchett. I mean, she just sunk into this role, like the accent, the demeanor of the hair. But Phyllis is played by Cate Blanchett. The face of the women's movement at the time, Gloria Steinem, played by Rose Byrne, and I'm just like, that's great casting. And we're gonna talk a lot about that. But Gloria Steinem is played by Rose Byrne. The wonderful Uzo Aduba played Shirley Chisholm, who was the first black woman to ever make a historic run for president in 1971. So that was pretty big. I have notes. I'm sorry. Elizabeth Banks played Jill Ruckelshaus, who was the only Republican, Republican congresswoman who was a part of the movement and was very out there. Bella Asbug, played by Margot Martindale, who was also a congresswoman, and she had these hats. I love the hats. That was like her signature thing. Betty Friedan was played by Tracy Ullman, who, watching an interview, I did not know that she was English, and she's technically British American, but when I heard her accent, I was like, what? But granted, like, that makes almost half their cast not American, which is honestly kind of interesting, but at the same time, I mean, doesn't take away from the performances. That was great. And rounding out the main cast, Sarah Paulson played Alice McAvoy, or McRae. I'm gonna get that right. But that rounds out pretty much the main cast. There was a lot of good supporting characters. None of the actresses I can think of by the top of my head, but I've seen them before. But I think it was John something, but he was on Mad Men. He was on the show. I swear, I know faces, I just can't think of names. But that pretty much runs out the whole cast. My general thoughts of the show was really good. Like, I think this is probably one of the best shows to come out of 2020 so far. It really grips you in. Like, every single episode focuses on a specific person. So the first episode starts with Phyllis Schlafly, and I'm not going to do an episode breakdown. This is pretty much going to be like a spoiler, not spoiler video. Like, there's spoilers, but I'm not going to do a breakdown because that's a lot. And right now, I just want to talk about the show generally. But pretty much, each episode highlights a specific woman. So in the first episode was about Phyllis, the second episode was about Gloria, the third one's about Shirley, the fourth one's about Jill, one's about Alice. I think after episode 7, they do like one about like the convention, and then the finale is about like the road to Reagan's presidency. And each episode I just loved. Like, personally, I think honestly my favorite was the Shirley Chisholm episode, because not only is Uzo Aduba a wonderful actress and deserves the Emmy if she gets nominated. I mean, honestly, this show, Little Fires Everywhere, every actress should get a nominee for an Emmy, especially Uzo Aduba. But each episode just tackled a little bit about, like, the movement, each character, what are their stakes in the whole aspect. And technically the season takes over like 10 years. So it's pretty much the whole 70s, like from 71 to 80. So they really managed to take time well. Like, they always start with a time, like, in the beginning of the episode, whether it be 1971, 1973, 1976. And I think that really helps with the timeline because, you know, they got the ERA pass, which is great. Now they got to get ratified. So now each episode is like a different battle in getting those states. And I loved it. Like I said, I do not like political dramas. But this one, I think since it's tied to the women's movement, and I'm a woman, a black woman, so I feel like it's not like I have a stake in it, but I want to know the history. I wanted to know who these characters were and everything like that. So I'm going to do like a breakdown of a couple characters, standouts to me. First, we're going to start with Phyllis Schlafly, played by Kate Blanchett, and she played this complex villain. I want to say villain, but anti-hero at the same time. Now, do not get me wrong. I do not agree with Phyllis Schlafly's views. I do not agree with the way she did things, how kind of spite like she was, and mostly her views. I do not agree with them. But I think it was really interesting to show her in this series that she was, you know, like, she was a conservative. Like, she believed about home, like, family values, being in the home, serving the husband. Yet, she went out, she rallied, she left her family, she had someone else taking care of her family, 2 people, and she taught everyone in her movement how to balance a budget, how to create signs, how to fundraise, how to get people into the movement. So, to me, I was watching this, I'm like, this is really funny because she's doing the same thing that the Libbers were doing. And I'm just like, you're doing the same thing too. Like, when they really said she's the biggest feminist of all, I really think so too. I mean, she was on them TV shows, okay? She was debating people. She was out there. She was doing it. So to me, I'm just like, it really came off very hypocritical or just kind of ironic more than anything. And it was really interesting because her husband supported her and at times didn't support her, the whole thing that she was doing. And like, I think it's really interesting because she's just like, oh, my husband let me do this. Thank you for letting me do this. And it's just like, no, you didn't. You chose not to tell him when you were taking your son's law degree test. And then you didn't tell him when you actually took the test yourself. You didn't tell anybody. And you got caught by a reporter. So I just find it really funny. And her character, I think the way they're supposed to portray a character is that she is a housewife. You know, she has kids. She had 6 kids. And one of them was, you know, did not agree with her mother and her movement to the fact that she changed her name when she went to college and went by Liza, which is actually kind of cute. And she was like, I don't believe anything you believe. And you're just like, oh, she's just, the liberal agenda is getting to you. And she was not for it. Side note, that was the same girl that played Maya in Degrassi. If y'all seen Degrassi, seasons like after season, I think season 9, season 10, she played Maya, just minus the glasses, but it's her. And one of her sons was in the closet, and she knew about it. And I'm just like, and she was out here just like, oh no, it's fine. Just don't tell your father. And I'm just like, girl, you ain't playing nobody. And in the end, she played herself. And I think it's really funny because she was trying to build, like, you know, she had this big mailing list. She had her own newsletter, and the conservatives wanted it. Like, Reagan wanted it, because if he got that newsletter, he could have got to the voters and he would get in. And that's what happened. And she really thought, oh, well, I'm going to do this. Once we give them our endorsement, I'm going to be in the cabinet. I'm going to be doing the stuff I should have done. And you didn't. You got passed over for a woman who was pro-ERA, which was so funny to me. And in the end, I'm like, you played yourself. You played yourself. And that's what just really kills me about Phyllis, is that it almost just seems like a false positive. And I guess what I mean by that, it's just a thing where it's like, she really was so soaked in her own message, and she really thought, if I can just do this to get what I want, I'm going to get what I want. And it's just like, you're still a woman. You're still a woman. It's somehow things were going to be against you. And they were. Because in the end, she didn't get that job. She sat her ass right at home. Right at home. And I just thought that was a really fitting end for her, because I'm just like, that makes sense. You played yourself. Sorry, I have notes. Okay, so the next character we're talking about is Gloria, played by Rose Byrne. And I thought this role was really good for her. Because, I mean, Rose Byrne, honestly, she's underrated. Everyone on this cast is underrated. But Rose Byrne, I feel like every role I see her in that's not a comedic role, it's just so subtle, so quiet. And even her comedic roles are kind of quiet, or kind of just, like, on the back burner. So to me, like, she's just so, like, cool. Like, I really get her vibe every single time they talked about her on camera, and they're just like, oh, she's just so cool. Like, she just knows what she's talking about. She's so charismatic by just being mysterious, and I got that. And I think Gloria was also a well-rounded character. I think it's really interesting to show the women's liberation movement as part of white feminists and black feminists, because they were real, and they really showed that. And because Gloria, she's an ally. She's an ally for all people. Lesbians was part of the movement, black people, Hispanic people, Latinx people, Asian people. Like, she's an ally. And I think what's really interesting about, like, just her character is that, like, you know, she was flawed. She was a flawed person. She put other people before other people to get the overall message or agenda pushed. And for her, that kind of came, like, a little later. Like, it's like she was reluctant to do these certain things, like talk to certain people to get where she wanted. And it was it was delayed for her, but she, like, got to that point. And I know she didn't feel great about it, but, you know, she really was, like, an ally. And I think that really just shows through her magazine, Mrs. Magazine, and how she really hired all women with kids, women of all different ethnicities, backgrounds, and just trying to get that different perspective. One standout moment, I liked was when, I can't remember her name, but one of, she's this black character, she was a mother, I can't remember her name, but she was in a meeting with Gloria and other women from Ms., and she was talking about potential articles she wanted to write, and she wanted to talk about tokenism in the workplace, and how she feels like white people don't understand that within a black community, they are diverse within themselves, and how she doesn't speak for all black people. And they kind of turn around and are like, oh, so do you feel like you're a token here? And, you know, she's like, I mean, no, even though she does. And I have felt that to a level. Like, I remember, you know, in high school talking to different people, and they're just like, oh, Joan, don't you know this? Like, do you know how to twerk? Do you know how to do this or that? And I'm just like, no, because I'm not your standard black person. No, we're not all the same, and we all don't twerk, and we all don't listen to hip-hop music. So that part really stood out to me. And I think it also just shows that the movement was very separated. I mean, they had like their white feminists, their black feminists, and lesbians. You know, they really, it was like they're all fighting for the same thing, but obviously they want something specific for them in this bill or like in the agenda, you know, which is understandable because we're all women. But I just like how everyone like in Phyllis's movements always looked at Gloria just like, oh, well, she's an unmarried, freeing liber, and it's just like, yeah, you know, she doesn't want to marry, she want to have kids, that's her choice. She had that cool factor to her. And as a character, I did find her, you know, relatable. I liked her. Was she my favorite character? No, she was not my favorite character. That would have to go to Shirley Chisholm, played by my girl Uzo Aduba. Now, when I tell you, this woman slayed her performance. She slayed this performance. Like, she deserves an Emmy for it. Not like any other woman on the show doesn't deserve one, don't get me wrong. But I felt real emotion. Like, I was really tied into her. And yeah, that's my part because I'm a black woman. And I think Shirley Chisholm's story hasn't really been brought to the front lines. Because I remember learning about her in high school. But not much was to it. It's just she was the first black woman to ever make a run for president. That was it on that. And it was just a thing where I liked how, you know, even the Black Caucus were telling her that she was going to lose. Her own women's movement were telling her that she should have came to them before she announced. And it's just like, no, I don't have to do anything for you. This ain't for you. It's for me. And I'm like, yes, I love that. And the fact that they were bugging her phone and she knew it. And she was just like, I know someone is listening. And she was not about that. Like, she really didn't take shit. And I loved that. But also, you can tell that she was, you know, she was scared. This was a huge thing. You know, she can be crucified. And she can't come back if she fails. Because black women are expected to pretty much put everything else on the back burner and be the whole front runner or spokesperson for their race or their gender sometimes. And again, I felt that. I feel it so much. So her episode was very inspiring. And also, I watched an interview. I will put this in the link below. In the description box below, I'll put the link. But I watched this interview. If anyone watched the For Harriet channel. It's hosted by Kimberly. I love her. And she did an interview with Ama Asante, who directed 2 episodes of Mrs. America. And she's a British, I think Nigerian or Ghanaian, one of the two. Director and actress, but mostly director. And she's known for her most recent movie in the decade. It's called Belle, which I watched. And I liked it. And I was just like, okay. And I also found out she directed 2 episodes of Handmaid's Tale, which I also love. So after I watched that interview, I just had a whole different perspective on that episode and the perspective of what she was trying to emulate and get on screen. And I just really enjoyed it. And Uzo deserves the Emmy. I will launch a campaign. And for the rest of the character, you know, you had Jill Rucklehouse, played by Elizabeth Banks. She had her own episode. I thought that was really good too. I thought it was really good to see Elizabeth Banks in something else, you know? She was goofy, doing something, but she was really, like, serious. And it's almost like she kind of did the same thing, like, kind of Phyllis did. Like, she obviously worked in the White House, so she had power, you know? She had a little bit of power. So the fact that she got the Women's Commission, you know, she got that started, and she had to kiss ass to do it. And I think it was really nice to see that even though she was a Republican, obviously women issues are not bipartisan, or they shouldn't be bipartisan. So, you know, she was out here, she was in the movement, she was in it. And I like that. I thought her episode was really nice. But I think her as a character, she was always towing that line of just like, well, yes, I'm a Republican, but I understand women's issues, you know? So I liked her character. Betty Friedan, she cracked me up. She's probably my second favorite character, because she literally gave no fucks. Like, she literally did not care. But also, I do understand, like, the whole route for character, because she just looks like a bitter woman who's mad that, like, she started this whole movement and only they care about Gloria. And, you know, and she wanted to go against Phyllis. Like, she wanted to go head on. Like, we need to face her head on. They're like, no, Betty. And she's just like, yes. And she did. And pretty much called her a witch on air. But, I mean, what Betty was saying wasn't wrong. And I can just tell that, like, she really, it's like she had a say in the movement at that point, but at the same time, I think things were just kind of changing. Times were changing. And agendas flipped. Now, I know she was against lesbians, a part of the agenda, which I never got, because I'm just like, they're important. And when they went to the convention, she was like, yes, as a delegate at large, I think lesbians deserve a spot. And then it's like, yeah, but before then in the season, I'm just like, I don't understand. But that was just me. That was my only thing about her. But after that, I really liked Betty. I thought she was funny. I thought she had the funniest moments, besides Bella Asbeck, who also did not give any fucks and has literally every single scene she was in had a different hat. Every single scene. It was like she was going to church or something. But I liked her too. She was also a congresswoman who also was pretty much the head of the Women's Commission on trying to get like the issues for the agenda to the White House and everything like that. But yeah, I like Bella. She was nice, but like, she wanted to get stuff done, but she also wanted to get things done like the proper way, or in a way where they're not getting screwed in the end, which I understand. I think that's a very valid point. But, you know, in the end, she gets fired, and which kind of sucks for her, and she was really beat up about it. But that's what happens when you're trying to demand more time and more attention. They just write you off for someone that's crazy, which is unfortunate. But that's pretty much my overview of the characters. Now, for the actual, like, show, like, the way it was shot, like, cinematography-wise, this show was beautiful. Like, I also found out, like, through that interview with Alma Asante that they hired film directors for every episode, which makes sense, because I was watching, I'm like, man, this is like a movie. Like, why do I feel like I'm watching American Gangster? Not gonna lie. So it just had that, like, old, like, I don't want to say rustic feel, but, like, very aged feel in the filters. You know, the shots were very, I wouldn't say far in between, but, like, the shots were a little bit more intimate. They're a little bit close. A lot of medium shots. To me, there really isn't any big, like, shots that really stood out to me. Because if it did, I would remember, but I don't remember. But it was shot beautifully. I think the color palettes were great. A lot of oranges, a lot of greens, a lot of blues, a lot of purples, like, mostly orange. Oh my god, I also forgot Sarah Paulson's character, Alice McRae. Her character was nice. I liked her character. Her character had a great evolution from a naive housewife to a working woman, which I'm like, that makes sense. But I guess just to on an ending point with this video, I think this show is a really good show that's happening right now. I think in the light of the Me Too movement of especially the abortion rights, because in the last couple of years, abortion has been limited in several states, including Ohio. So I think just trying to get informed on women's issues, getting informed on how the movement started and what I can do or everyone else can do in regards to the movement. I think I just thought this show was amazing. Like, it was just great. I fully recommend it. If anyone really likes political dramas, if you like political dramas with tight writing and great set design, and if you're a fan of any of the actresses I list earlier, if you're a fan of FX on Hulu, this show is for you. It's a really good one. I highly recommend it, and hopefully in some time I will definitely be rewatching. But yeah, I think that's all the thoughts I have. That's all the thoughts I have down. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.